Attorney General William Barr is facing new calls to resign ahead of his congressional testimony next month. Over the weekend, more than 1,000 former Justice Department officials signed a letter. In it, they called Barr's behavior, quote, a grave threat to the fair administration of justice. This comes after Barr overruled a sentencing recommendation for Roger Stone, a convicted longtime ally of the president. Prosecutors in the case all resigned. Mr. Trump thanked Barr on Twitter for taking charge of the case. Then Barr publicly urged the president to stop tweeting about federal cases, but he continued. For more, I want to bring in Jeff Mason and Siobhan Hughes. Jeff is a White House correspondent for Reuters. Siobhan is a Wall Street Journal congressional reporter. Welcome to you both. Jeff, I'd like to start with you. How is the White House responding to these calls for the Attorney General to resign?
You know, honestly, Elaine, I don't think it's having much of an impact here at all. It's not the kind of letter that is bound to resonate at the White House at a time when, despite maybe just a little bit of friction between the president and his attorney general over that interview that the attorney general gave to ABC last week, in general, the president is very happy with the way William Barr has performed as his attorney general, looking out for his interests on everything from the Russia probe to now apparently Roger Stone. So it's it's something that these people signed, and it's gotten some attention. There's no question about that. But I don't think it's having a particularly big impact here.
Right. Well, Siobhan, as I mentioned, Attorney General Barr will be testifying before Congress next month. Roger Stone sentencing aside, what else do Democrats plan to question Barr about?
Well, they sent William Barr a letter outlining some of what they want to question him about. So you're right, Roger Stone is one of them. They also are interested in the circumstances and the events following the departure of Jessie Liu, the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. Her nomination to a top Treasury post was pulled. They have concerns about that. Democrats also concerned about this intake process that Bill Barr set up to accept information gathered by Rudy Giuliani, who is still on a crusade over the idea that Ukraine and not Russia had intervened in the 2016 elections. But Democrats say that's not the total list. And of course, more things have come out since Democrats announced that hearing, including this idea that Bill Barr has asked outside prosecutors to look at the work of some of the existing U.S. prosecutors, in effect second-guessing them over things like the Michael Flynn case. And so there's a lot of territory to cover.
And going back to Jessie Liu for just a moment, can you remind us how she factors into Roger Stone, the Roger Stone case?
Yeah, so she inherited a bunch of cases that were spun off from the Mueller investigation. And so she headed the Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, which prosecuted the Roger Stone case. Now, it's not that she did anything wrong, but the thinking is the White House would have liked her to be more aggressive, to have stepped in and perhaps stopped the 7 to 9 year sentence that the prosecutors initially recommended, or maybe do something to keep prosecutors from being less aggressive.
Well, Jeff, the Attorney General's interview and criticism about the president's tweeting struck some as a surprise, but was it actually a surprise for the White House? Do we know?
Well, there have been sort of some mixed reporting on that. In general, I think we can focus on what the reaction was once the interview came out, and that was that the press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, first released a statement saying that the president was not bothered by the comments that Bill Barr made, and also saying that he had a right as a private citizen to weigh in and to share his opinions. Now, saying that he wasn't bothered by it sort of piqued, I think, everyone's interest here as we were watching.
Sure.
And we were curious to see if he would follow up with a tweet, which of course he did.
Yes.
The next day, and said that he, sort of insisted that he had the right to weigh in on these cases, and not only to weigh in, but to have an impact on them if he wanted to, but he said that he had not done so so far. So I think that was a sign, if in case it was necessary, to Bill Barr of, listen, I'm still in charge. I may have heard your message, but I'm not necessarily taking any notes from you about this. But it also, was not a slap in the face to Bill Barr in the way that some of his tweets to people who have contradicted or criticized him, who have been part of his circle, have been.
Absolutely. Siobhan, do Democrats plan on launching any more investigations in this post-impeachment era?
Democrats are really grappling with what to do, and part of the problem is that the impeachment did not result in a conviction. Democrats gave that everything they got. They felt their case was well documented. Republican senators agreed with that assessment, and so there's a sense of to what end would there be any additional investigations. Nancy Pelosi herself has not said that there are going to be more investigations. She hasn't ruled it out, but it certainly doesn't sound like she's being very committed to more investigations. If there were any, the likely center of those investigations would be the House Judiciary Committee, which has emerged as sort of the beating heart of the more progressive or liberal wing of the party that is determined to mount a resistance to Donald Trump. But so far, nothing solid yet.
And Jeff, we know that the president has purged some officials who testified in the impeachment inquiry. We also know that he's bringing back Hope Hicks, who is seen as a staunch Trump loyalist. Can we expect more personnel changes like that?
Well, it's hard to say. Over the 3 years that the president has been in office, there have been lots of personnel changes, and it's just kind of a tricky thing to predict. Certainly, the return of Hope Hicks is no doubt a boost for President Trump. They were very close. He felt very close to her and trusted her very much. Her new job will be different from the one that she had when she left. She left as the communications director. She's coming on to join Jared Kushner's team. So I don't know exactly what her role will be there, but I don't think she'll be sitting outside the Oval Office, which is what the real estate that she had earlier in the president's term. So it will be a different job, but the fact that she is here and her presence here will no doubt be a shift and probably a positive one for President Trump.
All right, Jeff Mason and Siobhan Hughes, thank you both very much.